Ladies and gentlemen, the 8th President of Buffalo State College, Dr. Aaron Podolefsky.
Thank you, Howard, and thank you all for your kind greetings. And hello, Buffalo State. I could not be prouder to join this amazingly vibrant, talented, and dedicated campus community. My wife, Ronnie, and I see our lives as a series of adventures, from the New Guinea Highlands to the wilds of West Virginia, from the shadows of Wrigley Field in Chicago to Iowa's Fields of Dreams, from stops in Kentucky to a stint in Missouri. We've enjoyed several lifetimes of adventure. But life's funny. Though we've crisscrossed the country and gone around the world since our days as students at the State University of New York at Stony Brook, and as junior high school teachers on Long Island, where we actually met, here we are, back in New York State, and glad for it. And now the adventure begins in Buffalo. And I can tell you that we have not felt this excited about our next adventure since we landed in Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea in 1975. And in just 4 months, we have fallen head over heels in love with this college and this city. And so it is with the greatest sincerity that I thank John Hoskins, Chair of the Buffalo State College Council, Howard Zemsky, Vice Chair of the Council and Chair of the Presidential Search Committee, as well as the other members of the Council who placed their confidence in me. And I want to express my appreciation to the Presidential Search Committee and tell them publicly how impressed I was during the time we spent together. I felt so good about that brief initial winter visit that I called Ronnie right up on the phone, and I told her I thought I just might know where life would be taking us next. I then headed to the airport, only to learn that I'd be spending another night in Buffalo, rather than heading back to Missouri on schedule. But truth be told, the sun was shining in Buffalo, the winter weather was wreaking havoc in my connecting cities to the south. And that was fine with me because it gave me one more night out for pizza and chicken wings. And as a candidate, I also traveled to New York City, and I want to thank Chancellor Zimpher and the SUNY Board of Trustees, especially Board Chairman Carl Hayden, as well as Buffalo resident and SUNY trustee Eunice Lewin, for entrusting to me the awesome responsibility of serving as president of this very fine university. Madam Chancellor, you are a formidable force in higher education, and I'm honored I am truly honored and privileged to work with you to advance SUNY on behalf of the people of New York. Thank you. And thanks, too, to the chair of our foundation board, Linda Dobmeyer, who has made extraordinary efforts to introduce Ronnie and me to people across Buffalo during these first few months. I want to thank members of the Presidential Inauguration and Planning Committees, co-chaired by Provost Dennis Ponton, Council Chair Howard Zemsky, SUNY Trustee Eunice Lewin. I want to thank the Inauguration Support Committee and the amazing student musicians who just played that beautiful piece composed especially for this occasion by J. Tomas Onrich and led by Paul Farrington and Victoria Furby. Your hard work has resulted in a true celebration of our magnificent institution, and I'm deeply grateful. Can we give them another round of applause? To the 7 past presidents of Buffalo State represented here today by Muriel Howard and Bruce Johnstone. Thank you. I want to thank you for all you have done, and I pledge to carry on your extraordinary work. Every president stands on the shoulders of those who led before, and I'm honored to inherit their place at the table. Buffalo State is very much in your debt, and we want to thank you for your commitment, which molded this exceptional university. I begin each day knowing that I must give no less and leave as you did, a positive and indelible mark on this institution, the city of Buffalo, and the world beyond. Finally, I want to thank my family, my son Noah, my daughter-in-law Molly, my son Isaac, my brother David, who came here today, and I want to thank you for being here. And of course, I want to thank the love of my life, Ronnie Podolefsky. Would you stand? Ronnie has been there for me through thick and thin for nearly, dare I say it, 40 years. How fortunate am I? How many husbands or wives would be willing to pack up a one-year-old baby, a year's supply of chloroquine to prevent malaria, waterproof boots and mosquito netting, and head into the highlands of New Guinea? Now that is a wife or a husband. Thank you, Ronnie, for your adventurous spirit, but also for being a partner who has made me proud by making your own mark on the world, and for always standing up for what you believe in. What a partner in life. Thank you. We gather here today to participate in the ritual of inauguration. An inauguration is a reaffirmation of our community's shared mission, a rededication to our purpose, a celebration of the nobility of that purpose, and a commitment to a new beginning. Today, the Buffalo State community gathers to celebrate our grand history and our magnificent traditions, not the least of which is the tradition of continuous change and evolution. Every college and university, indeed every organization, is a product of its history modified by its current conditions. And today we celebrate that history and the people who made this institution what it is. We were founded as Buffalo Normal School in 1871, nearly 140 years ago, the same year as the Great Chicago Fire, the overthrow of the Tweed Ring in New York City, and the creation of P.T. Barnum's traveling circus. In that year, Orville Wright, Stephen Crane, and James Weldon Johnson were born. It was just 1 year before Susan B. Anthony was arrested and convicted for the audacious act of voting in Rochester. It was the era of the Reconstruction and the so-called Gilded Age, and it was the age of the Land Grant Act, a moment in history not unlike our own, with questions of knowledge, information, and access central to our nation itself. From its very beginning, this university was established to educate teachers. We began as a public institution with a public purpose, a purpose quite different from the older elite private colleges of the Northeast. From the beginning, this school focused on serving the public good, a value that remains strongly held today. Over the last century and a half, we've been Buffalo Normal School, State Normal and Training School, State Teachers College at Buffalo, New York State College for Teachers at Buffalo, State University College for Teachers at Buffalo, State University College at Buffalo, Buffalo State College, and of course, affectionately, Buff State. The changes in name reflect changes in the mission. And as this institution has continued to grow and expand its role, those names have reflected that change. After World War II, this college, like so many others across the nation, opens its doors to those seeking education on the GI Bill. The GI Bill provided low-cost access to higher education and is often called our nation's most successful economic development strategy. As the nation prospered, Buffalo State expanded its programs to meet the needs of business and industry, to prepare our students for careers of their time, and to develop in them those habits of mind we expect of educated people. Two decades later, beginning about 1964, we baby boomers swelled the ranks of higher education. And we, Buffalo State, like other colleges and universities, expanded once again, adapting always to the demands of our time. These were the years of the Rockefeller governorship when SUNY was transformed, in the words of former Chancellor John Ryan, from an underfunded stepchild to the largest comprehensive university system in the United States. Governor Rockefeller imbued SUNY with a sense of public purpose and was the driving force behind the system with which Buffalo State is so proudly a part. We have grown from a normal school focused solely on the preparation of teachers to a fully comprehensive university we are today. We have grown to be SUNY's largest comprehensive college with nearly 12,000 students enrolled in 162 undergraduate programs and 60 graduate programs, spanning the fields of human knowledge, engaged in discovery and creation, and securing significant grant and contract support. We've evolved to what I consider the perfect institutional blend, offering small college learning environments coupled with large university opportunities. But no matter how much we've grown or expanded in mission or created new programs and transformed how we teach and research, our core purpose remains. Buffalo State continues to be the people's university, to serve the public and to act in its best interest. Several years ago, I came across an excerpt from a William Lowe Bryan's 1903 inaugural address, where he was installed as Indiana University's 10th president. And I was struck by the simplicity, the clarity, and the timelessness of his words, with which I wholeheartedly agree. Over 100 years ago, President Bryan told us this, quote, "What the people need and demand is that their children shall have a chance, as good a chance as any other children in the world, to make the most of themselves, to rise in any and every occupation, including those occupations which require the most thorough training. What the people want is open paths from every corner of the state, through the schools, to the highest and best things which people can achieve. To make such paths, to make them open to the poorest, and make them lead to the highest, is the mission of democracy," unquote. This is a call to service, to ensuring grand opportunities and an equal chance for all students, and it's why I work in higher education. Like many of you, I suspect, I'm passionate about higher education because of the upbringing I had. I'm dedicated, and I've dedicated my life and my career and my scholarship to serving future generations of students. And these passions were formed when I was very young. My parents were divorced when I was a year old, and I lived in apartments, first in the Bronx and then in Queens, with my mother and my uncle and my modern, upwardly mobile grandparents. My other grandparents, who had brought my father to this country when he was 8 years old, cared passionately about many things, the least of which was money and upward mobility. My Zeta, that's father's father, owned a little printing shop on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, but he always had his eyes on the stars, on science, on history. Each weekend, he'd travel to my grandparents' apartment to get me. He'd bring me to his apartment for a weekend with my dad. He had to take the subway from the Bronx through Manhattan and out to the last stop in Queens, where he'd board a bus and ride to my stop and then walk the rest of the distance to where I lived. And then he'd take me by the hand and often carry me when I got tired, and we'd walk back to the bus station to take the bus to the train to his apartment in the Bronx. And on those walks, he talked about many things to keep me occupied. He told me stories about his youth in Russia, where Jews were not allowed to own land or go to school, about how he studied in what he called underground universities. He talked a lot about science, and I still remember one of the most interesting things he said to me. And I was very young, probably 5 or 6 years old. And I remember in one of those things, we were talking about science, and he told me about the Big Bang Theory. And he told me that what was important about a theory was not whether it was right or wrong, but whether it made you think. At least that's the way I remember it. And these ideas about ideas have stuck with me for 60 years. The important thing for me was that he brought alive, at that very early stage of my life, the importance of education, of knowledge, of thinking. He made it clear that it was worth the struggle, and that for some, it was literally a struggle. And he told me that though there are many things people can take away from you, your house, your car, they can never take away your education. So while my Zeta planted a seed early in my life, these ideas lay, frankly, dormant for a while. And when I was about 8.5 years old, my mother moved to California, where intellectual life in a small town was a little different than it was in a city. And through my high school years, I spent more time under a car than with a book. And when I was a senior, my stepfather strongly suggested that I shouldn't even bother with college. I was really a pretty good mechanic, you see, and he believed that was my principal talent. And, if I'd have bought some land and opened a repair shop in 1964 in that little town that grew up to become Silicon Valley, that might actually have been a pretty smart idea. But despite his advice, I went off to San Jose State, a college much like Buffalo State. And you know what happened? Something happened right in the middle of that first year. I began to develop an interest, then an enthusiasm, and then a passion for ideas, for books, for knowledge, and for inquiry. It was like my grandfather's lessons came rushing back. For me, as for so many students, past and present, college was a transforming experience. Those 4 years changed my life. It was the professors, it was the classes, and it was the friends who sat talking philosophy and politics and music late into the night. I learned to apprehend the world differently. I had earned my degree in mathematics and never looked back. So it's with that great enthusiasm and with that great passion that I'm committed to creating these kind of environments for our students today, to linking arms with my colleagues in order to best serve the women and men who pursue education on our campus and across our region. It's because of what the university did for me, personally, and for what generation and generation of students before me have benefited by. Buffalo State is an institution that is devoted, first and foremost, to serving its students and to supplying them with the knowledge, values, and abilities they need to achieve personal and professional success. Over the last 100 days, since coming to Buffalo, I've heard story after story about how Buffalo State changes lives. Businessmen and women, pillars of our community, have said to me that it's because of Buffalo State that they've been able to achieve what they have achieved. Many have described how a single professor at Buffalo State made that difference. Many have described how that professor transformed their lives. And they are successful, influential members of society because of Buffalo State. Nearly 90,000 living alums are making an impact on the world, and that is our legacy. Over the many years I've spent in higher education, my passion for creating high-quality educational environments as students has expanded into a deep-seated enthusiasm for the university's ability to more broadly serve and transform community, economy, and society. Beyond Buffalo State's mission to educate undergraduate and graduate students, we directly serve communities through hundreds of partnerships. We provide support for public sector services and private sector businesses. We support entrepreneurs and small business development. And we help support the arts and culture that enliven a great city. And we make such a wonderful place to live as Buffalo. No better examples can be found than our own Birchfield Penny Arts Center, our Great Performers Series, our partnerships with local arts organizations and community groups, and our economic development efforts and our applied research efforts. Located in this wonderful cultural corridor, Buffalo State is the State University of New York's only urban university, and we have a mission that grows directly from that location. As part of our public purpose, we have a responsibility to be the institution that serves the city. From educating its teachers, its politicians, got that? Its leaders in business and in arts, and to offering speech and hearing clinics and literacy services, to volunteering hundreds of hours in local social service organizations, to supporting entrepreneurs and starting new businesses. We are called to serve not only students, but a far broader range of constituents, and that is a good thing. Over the past 100 days, I've learned that Buffalo State has hundreds of partnerships and is engaged in countless ways across the city and region and around the world, and this is fantastic. Our challenges are to make sure these efforts are coordinated for the greatest possible impact towards side by side with community agencies and businesses, and to spread the word so that others know about the good work we do. We must take these efforts to the next level and create opportunities that mutually benefit Buffalo State and its students, the city of Buffalo, Western New York, and beyond. These are indeed exciting times. We now live in what is called a knowledge society driven by a knowledge economy. Simply put, this means that the tools for success are intellectual. We carry them in our head. Increasingly, the means of production are creativity, innovation, and intellectual skills rather than factories and assembly lines. And this is why higher education is more important to America's future than ever before in our history. Education has become the engine of economic development and of quality of life. If we're to remain globally competitive, we must achieve the widely acknowledged goal of 60% holding a degree by the year 2025. At the same time, these are the most challenging times as state resources are retrenched, as the compact to provide affordable, quality public education to all is broken, and as a lack of flexibility limits our ability to innovate and to be entrepreneurial. Am I depressed about our state of affairs? Does it get me down? Nope. I don't get depressed. I don't get down. To the contrary, I'm fired up. And we have to remember that universities are the crucibles of innovation and imagination. Universities created the knowledge economy and the knowledge society, and universities will propel us into the next frontier of human development. When I was young, my father and stepmother lived in New York City, and my stepfather and mother lived in California. My father was an artist, and my favorite of his artistic periods was Surrealism. And I marveled at his ability to paint things that no one had ever seen, or to juxtapose things that no one had ever before put side by side, and from these juxtapositions create a thing of beauty and of intellectual inspiration. My stepfather was an engineer, a wonderful, wonderful person. But as you can guess, he had a slightly different take on the world. Right? Yeah. Pointing to my brother. When I used to ruminate about different schemes and plans, usually beginning with the word if, he would warn me that if is the biggest word in the English language. And I knew what he meant. He was cautioning me to keep my feet on the ground, be practical, trade in realities, not get carried away. And, you know, he had a point. But there's also great power, possibility, and imagination in the word if. And the power is the power to imagine. And I think, in fact, that imagine is the biggest word in the English language. Imagining is beginning to admit that difference is a possibility. Imagining is rejecting, even if temporarily, the status quo. Imagining is a revolutionary act. Imagining is admitting the possibility of new goals and new outcomes, new processes and new procedures, new solutions and remedies. Can we imagine a world in which all our students are immersed in discussions of a meaningful value system and questions of global citizenship, human diversity, and respectful stewardship of our planet? Can we imagine graduating students who are experts in their chosen field, critical and reflective thinkers on the broader issues of the day, and aware of their responsibilities to use their skills and abilities to contribute to human society? Can we imagine judging our success as an institution by the degree to which we educate students to recognize and appreciate creativity, innovation, wisdom, and beauty? Can we imagine ourselves as a community of teachers and scholars setting a course for new frontiers of intellectual and creative innovation? Can we imagine a day when Buffalo State is widely recognized for its crucial role in building a better Buffalo and a better Western New York through outreach and collaboration, and is known as the university that serves the city? I can, and we must. We must audaciously imagine the future, confident in our ability to grow ever greater thanks to the firm foundations of our past. My remarks today have focused on passions and purposes more than plans and particulars. They're intended to be sort of kindling, set to light a fire. Like I told you, I'm already fired up, and my words are intended to remind us all of why we're here, to inspire, to engage, and to challenge our university community and our supporters to reach for the highest aspirations. In the months and years ahead, it'll be our business to aspire and to imagine. As a university, we are not going to march silently into the future. Universities are places of argumentation, of great dialogue and debate. We are trained and encouraged to debate all manner of things, great and small. And this differentiates us from other organizations and gives us our creativity, our strength, and our freedom. So we'll move forward in our great debates about the future and about the promise of Buffalo State. And some, of course, will say, as Mark Twain reputedly quipped, "I'm all for progress. It's change I can't stand." So for some people, change is threatening, but I always keep in mind the words of my favorite poet, Bob Dylan, who reminded us in no uncertain terms that the times, they are a-changing. And in one of my favorite lines, he sang that he not busy being born is busy dying. And as the management gurus say, we must hold on to our purpose and change our strategies. So let's remember our purpose. Our ultimate purpose is to make the world a better place. We make the world a better place when we work directly with our neighbors in Buffalo, Western New York, and throughout the world to improve the quality of life, economic growth, and prosperity for all people. We make the world a better place by our discoveries and our learned discourses and our creative acts. We make the world a better place by graduating students who are well prepared in their chosen fields. We make the world a better place by helping students learn how to learn so they can change and adapt to careers and challenges not yet imagined. And most importantly, we make the world a better place when we graduate students who uphold the ideals of truth, wisdom, learning, beauty, tolerance, and civility. My friends, as we go forward boldly in the spirit of collaboration, let us celebrate our proud past, serve our noble purpose, and imagine always the best that Buffalo State can be. And finally, always remember that we're privileged to live our lives at a great university, engaged with colleagues and students in a righteous purpose. Take a moment to stroll around the campus. Stop in the library or the union. Look on a classroom full of students and walk the paths at sunset. In short, breathe in your university and remind yourself of how fortunate we are, all of us, to be here. I, for one, am truly grateful and privileged to have been given the extraordinary opportunity to serve as your 8th president. So thank you very much.